So today we have a choice. So either one of you could be building and we'll do a build along, and I'll support you through building whatever tool it is that you need, whether that's for your own program or whether it's something that you need for your client or something that you need for a workflow that is internal to your business. Or we can have a vote on something that maybe everyone feels that they would like, and I will build, and you can watch me build today. So they're the choices, but we'll wait a couple of minutes, see who else joins, and then we can have a vote. I'm going to take community requests. So it could be anything from you need a script writer for videos, you need a blogging assistant, a report generator of some kind, but it's got to be something that everyone can use. The key being that in me building and you guys being able to see the way that I interact with the AI, that there'll be a lot of like tips and tricks and bits and pieces that you guys will pick up. And I think I haven't done enough live building in front of you guys for you guys to be comfortable in being, okay, I definitely could do this. He's not doing anything too magic. And so that's the other side. So ultimately it's up to you guys. What week do you want to start with out of the two? Do any of you have an assistant that you would like to build? In which case I can support you through starting that. Alternatively, yeah, if anyone has any community kind of requests of assistants that they would like, I'm happy to go ahead and build that today.
I really love the idea what Jackie did, building a health and wellness check-in, sort of new me, new you, just making sure you're on track in terms of health, wellness, family, nutritional goals. I don't know if that is something that would be of interest or something you could build. But anyway, it just came to mind.
Yeah, maybe some kind of journaling assistant. I think that was something that came up even last year. You just want something that you can check in with day in, day out. I'm happy to take suggestions.
So that one that I built for myself, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday who's a coach, and I was telling her about it, and she went, oh my goodness. If you hear from somebody called Joanne who wants to join your thing, I was talking about what you've done, Nino, and everything else. And I said, it's because of Nino, and I just did this one personally for me. And she went, oh my goodness. She said, the new program I'm putting together as a coach, I could create one of these as a USP that is actually, when you're part of my program, you also get access to this, which we can potentially tweak for you. So mine's tweaked for me with being autistic ADHD and that as well. So the way my brain works. And she's just, oh my goodness. And I said, look, you just need to sign up for Nino's thing. I said, you're at the ideal stage if you've got a new coaching sort of project that you're doing. And so, yeah, if you hear from her.
Cool. I look forward to that discussion.
But it was the fact she could do it for herself and then learn how to do it to create as a USP within her project.
That's really good. So we have a potential sort of journaling assistant or like wellness check-in assistant. Anything else that anyone likes the sound of or feels that they could just sort of use it day to day? A lot of your internal business workflows are things that everybody does, right? Might be like between finance, like admin, like marketing, like everyone does the same things. So yeah, Gina.
What I've been working on in the last couple of days is collecting a testimonial from a happy client. And I have used ChatGPT a little bit. I've used Descript. I haven't got a full paid version of it. And I'm also realizing afterwards that actually I maybe didn't ask the right questions, and I talked over my wonderful testimonial a little bit too much, which made then the cutting of it too much. But I'm thinking if I can get a process to actually collect testimonials, maybe asking the right questions, giving my client time to speak, and then finding an easy way of editing it out, because it's the editing that's taking me a long time because I'm not a video editor, and and I'm learning as I go. Something around that. And we all want to collect testimonials, don't we, really?
Okay, so maybe some kind of questionnaire writer or testimonial questionnaire writer. You could put that and submit that and get them to just answer the questions. Or what I had done more recently when we did our quarterly check-ins, I had a set of like pre-organized questions that I wanted to ask that covered everything from the check-in. But in there were 3 or 4 that answered things that were basically testimonials. So we could do that. We could create essentially like a testimonial like questionnaire writer. Could I get like a little vote? So it's going to be the journaling assistant and the testimonial questionnaire writer. They're the 2 options, and I'll build today.
Okay.
So I'll be building. So Clinton's voting for number 2.
I'll vote for number 2.
Gina would like number 2. Jackie says either, and Gavin also said either. Okay. All right, cool. In which case, let's do the testimonial questionnaire. Right, let me find my assistant. Go look for the GPT builder. Perfect. The idea of what this will be is that collectively we'll work out what the workflow should be. I imagine that we may not finish it in the time that we have until 4, but obviously we have a cutoff at 4. But what I'd then like to do is finish building the assistant, maybe give it to a couple of people to test it and give it a try, and then turn it into a template of some kind. And we will then have a module that goes up in the community where I will build an assistant that will help you to build the assistant that we're building now. That's a bit of a if that made sense. That made sense. Anyone follow along? Yeah. Okay. And so you don't have to worry about having to replicate what I'm doing, although you're more than welcome to rewatch this video and replicate it if you feel that's useful. But yeah, I'll make the process so that you can easily customize this version to yourself, basically. All right, wicked. Let's jump in. Welcome. I'm the GPT Advanced Instructions Builder. Hopefully it creates structured GPT instructions. Perfect. So the first task is always to define the role of what the assistant is going to help us do. So let me have a go at describing it using the voice-to-voice. I'd like to build an assistant that can help me to create effective questionnaires when I'm either interviewing my clients to get a testimonial, or they might record themselves. It could also be used to create a form potentially that they can use, but most likely it's better to have it on video. So it's sort of going to be like a talking questionnaire, I think. I don't make this too complicated. Let's see what it gives us. Let's see what it gives us. The idea would be that we would essentially be creating this as a standard thing that you could plug your language and voice guidelines into. You could plug your signature framework or context about your business, maybe your coach profile if you have that. A guided talking questionnaire assistant that designs and it runs effective testimonial interviews. So it thinks that it's going to run the interviews. I'm not sure if that's quite the case. That we're not going to give this to the clients to create their own thing. We'll design testimonial questions tailored to your offer, audience, and use case. Present them as spoken. Okay. So the assistant is only going to just produce the questionnaire. Maybe what this assistant can also do is help us to process the transcript out the back of the video that we would have. I feel like that would be quite useful. So in 2 parts, if you will, the first being to design the testimonial questions, and the second part to essentially understand the transcript and try to pick out the testimonial from that, or which parts we should keep, because what we might do after is use AI to help us process that. Probably going to take that last bit out because it doesn't need context of what we're going to do with the video. It will just confuse it. The first being to design the inspiration, second part to essentially understand the transcripts and try to pick out the testimonials. Okay. And if at any point anyone has any suggestions or ideas of what the assistant can do or how it might behave, please do jump in. I'm always happy to take suggestions as we go. A testimonial creation assistant that 1, designs high-quality testimonial questionnaires, and 2, analyzes video transcripts to extract usable testimonial material. This keeps the scope focused. So part 1 is the designer, video first testimonial question sets, self-recorded video, clients, interviewer-led. Okay, that would be good, because some people might want either or, which could be useful. As spoken prompts, not survey style text. Clear outcomes. Fine. I don't want to spend too long reading this, but what this does.
I suppose somewhere down the line, when I'm uber successful and I've had hundreds of clients, I can send out AI me to actually do the interviews, couldn't I?
You could, yeah. Yeah. That is actually something that I don't know how early this year we're going to do that, but that is something that I would like to trial, creating some kind of support AI that anyone can just organize a meeting with. And you can just any time, just be even if it's 10 p.m. at night, you're just doing some AI stuff. It's the middle of the night, and you decide, I actually need Nino's help, and you can just organize a quick call with me and
really
jump
got
online.
Nino in your pocket.
Yeah, the Nino version of that's going to turn up to the Google Meet. Paul, and then takes a video transcript, analyzes it, and then pull testimony excerpts, clear before, after statements, outcome specific quotes, emotional credibility building lines. Okay, I think this is good. So does a compatibility check, capability check, limitations, clear boundaries, no video, audio ingestion directly, requires a transcript text to be pasted, which is all good. All right, so quick question, is that role accurate? The role is accurate. Let's have 2 modes, because you might be able to do 2 without doing 1. Okay, so the assistant will now create a canvas, so that a shared document that we're both going to work in, and it will essentially have the first part of the assistant's instructions. So it will define like an introduction, as it's shown. It will show the mode menu. See what it does. A bit slow. Could be me. I think we asked it too hard of a question.
I think the last question that you had was a bit confusing, because you said something about doing 2 without doing 1. Is that what it's got confused with, do you think?
Potentially. Let's see. Let's have a look. So what I usually like to do now is have a real kind of read of what it's interpreted from what it thinks that we want it to do. By the way, is this too small? I can zoom this in a little bit.
It's quite small.
So welcome, I'm the Testimonial Questionnaire and Transcript Extractor. I will help you 1, create video first testimonial questionnaires, and 2, analyze testimonial transcripts to extract strong, usable quotes and themes. Choose a mode to get started and we'll refine outputs together. So we have the mode menu. So mode 1, create testimonial questions. 2, analyze transcript and extract testimonials. So ask the user to choose a mode by number, route the user to the selected mode, allow the user to switch by typing switch mode. Within the session, reuse what the user has already provided, so on and so forth, without asking again. All right. So then we're zooming in to each of those different bits of functionality. So let's have a look the way that it's trying to design it. Ask the user for the minimum inputs needed to tailor the questionnaire. Offer service name and who it's for, what success looks like, recording format, intended use. Okay, any boundaries, topics to avoid, compliance, length. If the user provides partial information, proceed anyway using best effort defaults and clearly label assumptions. Generate a structured set of questions. So I think that this is going to need to evolve, to be honest. What I'm thinking is that the assistant that we're going to build may already know about us, because it's going to be built by you, essentially. So I'm going to build this as if it's for me, and then what I'll do is I'll make it so that then it's general and everyone else gets to build it. So I feel that the assistant will likely already know about the business, although it's not harmful to ask for the specific service or thing that was provided to that customer. Let's rewrite mode 1 and make sure that we have proper tasks written out. I do that we are context gathering as part of the first task, which is currently A, but we may not need all of those things. Okay, redo that and then see where we go. The rest of this isn't that bad, to be fair. Generate a structured question flow, optimize for video, warm up and context, who they are, what they did. Structured question flow. Would you ask them? If you were interviewing a client, would you ask them who they are?
I think so, because again, it might be relevant if you're particularly working with coaches or you're particularly working with people with chronic illness. And
fine, yeah. So yeah, context makes sense then there. So before, decision moment, process and experience, after, emotional impact, recommendation, and closing. Okay, it's very thorough. I don't know whether this will generate like too many questions, but we can see once we test it. Then write questions, short, friendly, 1 at a time. Include follow-ups. Can you specify examples? Avoid leading language. Avoid scripting the client's words. Provide 2 output variants by default. Video script version, talking questionnaire. Okay, so as part of the first task in mode 1, we would already understand if it's going to be a talking questionnaire like an interview or whether it's going to be a written questionnaire. So we don't need part E. Also, in E, we are providing the output, but maybe what we should do is we should draft the version into a canvas so that the user can edit easily and manage the output a little bit easier in collaboration with the AI rather than just in the chat. So I've sort of gone through and I'm sort of compiling like all the little changes that I want it to make, but still focused around this first mode of creating the actual questionnaire. So I'm going to send that, and I imagine that we'll get an edit now to this. Confirm or lightly clarify the specific context for this testimonial. Do not rediscover the business or brand unless the user explicitly adds a new context. Assume core business image already exists and only fill in gaps when needed. Okay. After structured question flow. That's basically as it was. Okay. We are missing the question to the user about whether they want it to be written or talking. So we need to add that as part of the things that we're clarifying in part A. When I'm doing this, I have the kind of like a very specific like user experience that I'm anticipating. So like when I use the assistant, I want it to have a little bit of context about the business. I don't want it to be like it knows nothing. And then it's going to build up a little bit of context about the specific person or the specific client or how you want your questionnaire to be. And then draft out those questions in the context of what it knows about the business and what it picked up at the beginning in a way that's going to be easy for us to like go back and forth until we confirm. At the moment, questions in the correct style. This doesn't read write questions in the correct style. Just to point something out that I'm noticing about this assistant is that there's now 3 different places that it's going to write the questions. So first it says draft the questions. And remember, these instructions are for the AI. So it's draft the questions, write the questions, write the first draft directly in Canvas. That's 3 different sub-steps. And if we were to assume that the assistant like follows them in order, it's drafted the questions, then it's going to try to redraft the questions, and then it's going to try to redraft the questions again, but in a different place. So maybe there's some ambiguity here, which we maybe want to highlight to the AI. Can you simplify mode 1? Remember that these instructions are for the AI assistant to follow. And so having him or them draft testimonial questions as part of C, and then write the questions as part of D, and then create the first draft in Canvas as part of E, seems a bit confusing or ambiguous. Can we try to refine this a little bit so that it reads a bit more logical? I imagine that C could just say, based on whether the user wants talking questionnaire or written questionnaire, draft the testimonial questions in Canvas following the format provided. I imagine that format may become a knowledge file at some point, but for now, let's just add it into the subpart C. I'm hoping that this will just clean all of this up. I think there's an element here of all I'm trying to do is trying to keep it as simple as possible. If you read the instructions and think these are a little bit complicated, then essentially they're likely too complicated for the AI, and it then becomes difficult to predict what the behavior is going to be. So by keeping it really simple, you're like, right, I know what it's going to ask. I know what direction it's going to try to take. So let's have a look now. Confirm or lightly clarify only on what is needed to tailor this questionnaire. Cool, what service, angle to emphasize, any clear boundaries. Based on the selected format, written or talking, draft the testimonial questions directly in Canvas using the following structure. Apply the direct style. This doesn't need to be there. Let's make that E, this F. Can you simplify E and F to just collaborate with the user until they confirm that they're happy with what's in the canvas. Please don't hard code any questions. At the end of the questionnaire, once the user confirms, you can offer to take them back to the menu. Much of this is just trying to understand, again, that user experience that you're trying to create and facilitate. Collaborate with the user in Canvas until they confirm they're happy with the questionnaire. Treat the Canvas document single source truth. Apply edits, refinements, fine. Confirms they're happy, acknowledge completion, offer to return. So great. Problem is, where has mode 2 gone? It's disappeared. Okay, I'm happy with mode 1. Can you add in mode 2 because it seems to have disappeared? And remember the style of the things that I've just changed and make sure that 2 is solid logic. So analyze, transcript, and extract testimonials. Call, offer, lack clarification, transcript text, which service or offer, intended use of the testimonial, any clear boundaries. Invent, embellish content, work only with the transcript provided. I think that's quite key because whenever I've tried to work with like long bits of like transcript, I'm always really keen to make sure that it shows me the quotes, like the exact quotes. So maybe what we'll do is make sure that it actually does give us exact quotes. Small insert, standalone clearly. Analyze the transcript, extract testimonial material directly into Canvas as a structured editable document, including strong primary quotes, supporting snippets before and after transformation. Not summarized though. As part of mode 2 in C, I don't want any of this to be summarized. We should only provide exact excerpts from the transcript to support each of those different parts of the document that's going to be added to Canvas. Preserve the client's voice. Light edits are allowed to improve clarity, not meaning. What does that mean? Preserve the client's voice. Light edits are allowed. No. No light edits are allowed. Strictly none, please. Then organize the canvas, output clearly, group quotes by theme or use case where helpful, keep original wording visible.
Wouldn't you have a few light edits though if people were sort of putting in lots of filler words or repeated themselves or something like that?
Potentially, but if the goal of this is to extract their exact words, you could do the like removing the filler words
when you get to the
script, yeah. Because I think when you're just looking at the transcript, sometimes the filler words might seem like context, like they might have said it under their breath and you can't even hear it that much or whatever it might be. So I think it's better that it's strict even for the initial part. We can obviously test it though, like as it becomes, once we're using it, it might be something that we might want to do some kind of cleanup if the transcripts come out really messy. But what I've found in the past is any opportunity that it has to cut the corner of being like, okay, I don't need to give you everything. I'm just going to give you a summary of it because it's too long. It will try to do that. So any ambiguity in that where I said, oh, you said it was fine to get rid of filler words. And then suddenly it's like rewriting the sentences. Collaborate with the user in Canvas until they confirm they're happy. Cool. So it's used the same kind of like structure in terms of how we want the AI to interact with the user, making sure that we have this collaborative document. It's picked that up from what we did in mode 1, and it's now using that in mode 2, which is quite helpful. Let me put this in, and hopefully we'll get an edit. Okay, let's continue. So it should have rewritten this now, actually. So this bit was fine. Analyze the transcript, organize into a canvas directly. Still summarizing. Fail to edit, fail to edit. You're absolutely right, draw the line. What you're asking for, no summaries, no light edits, no paraphrasing or cleanup. What happened technically? Try to update the canvas to enforce the logic, but the automatic failed. Okay, try again. There you go. You'd have thought by this point that the models are so advanced that they're able to use their internal tool, but somehow it's not able to edit its own document sometimes. Okay, so let's have a look. Make sure that it removed, present all context as verbatim transcript excerpts, do not summarize explanations, labels, implied interpretation, or edited versions. All right, good. Okay, I think I'm happy with mode 2 now. Let's continue. So the next part is it will put in the rules and best practices. So based on what we said the assistant should do and what the current instructions of the tasks say, it creates a set of rules and best practices. Assume prior business context, do not rediscover brand. Canvas is a source of truth. Mode separation is mandatory. Treat 1 and 2 as independent workflows. Never complete one. Never require completion of one to use the other. Is there anything missing here? Before we move on, I just want to make sure that these rules and best practices are aligned with the core rules and best practices guidelines. I'm not seeing anything about doing the task sequentially and not skipping over anything. Also, you seem to have abbreviated Rule 9, which is around using UK spelling and replacing EM dashes with EN dashes. Okay. Introduce the assistant at the start. Always begin with the introduction as written before entering the mode menu or any tasks. Yeah, that's good. Begin with the complete task sequentially, and then it goes into everything else. Okay. It's now got this fully. So this is the full version of this rule. If you still have it where it's giving you M dashes when you're actually using an AI assistant, to ensure that it's about replacing them, because internally, I don't think that it knows that it should be using these. And I think it will try to generate them and create them all the time. And so by asking the assistant to replace them, it will do a pre-check before it prints it out to you, which is quite helpful. Okay, cool. So now we have our rules and best practices. I'm quite happy with it. Yes, continue. The next step that it goes to is around supporting knowledge files. So this is where you could say that this set of instructions at the moment is super generic, and actually it's in the knowledge files that it becomes tailored to me or to you or to Gina or Clinton or Gavin or whoever it is that ends up building this. Based on current instruction set in Canvas, here are the recommended knowledge files. Testimonial questionnaire structure. I think that's probably quite helpful, meaning that we don't need to have all of this here. It can be something that's attached to the knowledge file, and that way it can be customized. So when we come to build our own version of this, you may not want all of these. There might only be like a subset of these that you want, or you might want to add more. And so that's like a place where we can customize it. Currently embedded in mode 1, question depth, 1 at a time logic, video versus written phrasing principles. That could be interesting. You might have 2 different types of structure to the questionnaire, depending on whether it's going to be like an interview led, i.e. like on video, or whether it will be written. Okay, cool. Writing guidelines. What makes a good testimonial question? What to avoid? Depth triggers. Specific contrast evidence. I don't know if we need this, to be honest. I don't know how good the questions are going to be yet. So writing guidelines for something that we don't know seems a bit preemptive. Extraction guidelines. Testimonial use case map. Again, not particularly helpful either. Okay, the only one that I think might be useful personally is the testimonial questionnaire structure. I think it would be good to have a single document that has the phrasing principles or the structure for video and for written questions. I think that we should also have some kind of business context. Maybe for now, this will be the coach profile or the business profile, which I already have, and we'll assume that the person that is going to build this assistant already has it. And then I may also want to include a language and voice guidelines.
I think for what I was doing it for over the last couple of days, mine's almost a stepping stone. It's almost like a trial. It's almost like a lead magnet that I'm charging people for. So come in and have an experience of doing this particular technique with me. So it's not the full program. So I don't know if there's something around if we're doing for this program or for that program, so we can actually put in the different programs.
Yes, I think that would be covered in this part.
Right.
So like what service or offer did this client experience? So at the beginning, although the context of the business will be that you work with people that are like have chronic illness at various different stages. So that would be the knowledge file that we would give it as context. But then the specific service or offer that the client has received could be something that you could specify. So that way that could be completely custom at the front part of it. Otherwise, you need like one of these for every single one, which might not work.
Yeah, I suppose. But what I'm thinking is probably I need something to give me a bit more depth to actually what my little program is. Because as with me, I sort of wing everything and I've got it vaguely written on bits of paper. But actually, that process that you take us through, that gets to the crust of actually what it is that we're delivering and what the outcomes are meant to be and all that sort of stuff. But you've got that already, haven't you? You've got that as
that's a separate lesson. What I could do is I could try to get you that assistant that you need to finalize that if you want.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, because I imagine what you'll be able to do is use that knowledge file that you would create that has that context, and then attach it as a knowledge file to this. Right, let's have a look what we get as options now. So we still have the questionnaire structure, then coaching business/coach profile knowledge file. This really exists. Anyone building this assistant will have it, pretty much. Essentially, this serves as context of the business. So who your ideal client is, so on. Language and voice guidelines, knowledge file. So this is fine. Again, another one this is inside the curriculum. My recommendation, minimal and clean. Create this, assume this, and defer. So we will create the first one and we'll assume that the other two already exist. So let's go ahead for now and just create the testimonial questionnaire structure knowledge file. Create it in a new canvas. Cool. So we now have a second canvas. So what I mean by that is when you click up here, you've got a list of any Canvas documents that exist. Initially, if you only have one and you click on it, it goes straight into the first one. When more than one exists, there'll be like obviously multiple. They're usually in order. This one here is the instruction set, which is the top one. And then the second one is the one that has just been created. So usually when you're using this assistant, you'll have your instructions in the first one and then individual knowledge files that you might need to create as separate documents. And so, yeah, just a tip for if you ever try to find stuff. But for now, let's have a look at the actual structure that it created for us. So core principles, chronological testimonial flow. So opening and ease in, context, before, decision point, experience, after result. So you're sort of going chronologically through like where were they before, like who are they, where were they before they worked with you, why did they decide to work with you, what was the experience like when they worked with you, what results or what happened after they worked with you, emotional shift, would they recommend you, basically, and then like a closing bit. So delivery style guidelines, talking questionnaires, video session, interview, conversational and natural in tone, one prompt at a time. It's not really a prompt. It's not really what that is. Just going to remove that. Or in fact, you know what? It would be good to understand the AI is thinking because maybe it's got some wrong context. A lot of working with AI and being able to work with AI effectively is just making sure you're on the same page. Like a lot of the time it will go off on a tangent, and like sometimes just validating that you're on the same page will anchor the AI into what you actually want to do. Subtle but important line, I'm glad you asked. It says one prompt line, and this means assistant should design the questionnaire so that the client is asked one clear question or prompt, then they're given space to answer fully. After only that answer do they move on to the next prompt. In other words, no stacking. What does that mean? What you're avoiding is basically, why does that matter at all if the user, who is going to be the person asking the questions, is able to extract the questions and they aren't producing one question at a time whilst they're live in the interview. They'll be producing the questions, confirming them, and then probably moving them out of ChatGPT and into some kind of document storage of some kind. And so maybe we should actually add, that reminds me, an option of being able to download the output of the questionnaires, even the testimonials, to be fair. Let's make a note of it, but we don't need this one prompt at a time bit. And there's no concept of allowing pauses and silence within the questionnaire. It's weird. Like, it thinks that it's going to be in the interview directly. Correctly identified a subtle category error. Those rules only matter if the assistants will conduct an interview, which is not. Yeah, fine. And it's removed a bunch of stuff. Cool. So I think I'm quite happy with this particular document. Now it's a case of just stitching them in to the instruction set and making sure they get referenced properly. When you're ready, we can add export options clearly in the instruction set. Yes, I would like to amend the instruction set, but first, can you export this knowledge file in the correct naming format? And then after that, we'll go back to the instruction set and you can detail plan of what we're going to change. Cool. And now it's providing a download. As I mentioned, we're unlikely to finish all of this build within the time frame that we have. And so what I'm going to do is, once the time runs out for today's session, I will continue to finish building this, and then I will provide it as a tool that people can test. If they're happy with it and we get some feedback from the community, I'll then build it into the Meta Assistant, essentially, so that everyone can build their own version of it. I hope that helps. Let's download the file. Cool. So next step is to amend the instruction set, update mode 1 to infer the new knowledge file, add export options. Yes, proceed to update the instruction set as planned. Just to make sure that it does the right one, I'm going to open it so that it's not the structure. Make sure it updates the right document. Yeah, based on the selected format, we're not talking, draft the testimonial questionnaire directly in this, and following the canonical structure and principles defined in the testimonial questionnaire structure knowledge file. So that's actually really good because it's referencing it directly by name, and that has to be in the tasks in order for it to work correctly. Right, I'm going to leave that there. I will definitely send you the link. I'll put it in the chat for you, Gavin.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Cool. I'm glad that you enjoyed today's lesson. It was really fun to finally build an assistant for you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this and make it available to the community, as I mentioned. But yeah, appreciate you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Nino. Cheers, mate.